Good morning. It's great to be back here in Jacksonville. What grade are you guys in? Fourth grade. Awesome. Well, it's good to be here. I'm Attorney General James Uthmeier. Thank you for joining us this morning. We've got a big announcement. We're going to talk about a new office in the Attorney General's office that's going to be focused on protecting parents' rights. So by now you should know your parents typically know what's best for you. They're always right, even when you disagree with it sometimes. And when it comes to growing up, your education, healthcare choices, the curriculum you're going to have in front of you, we want to make sure that parents are involved. And as somebody that works for the government, I'm here to tell you that it is not the role of the government to raise kids. That role is reserved, that is a God-given right given to parents to figure out. Yeah. And here in Florida, as you know, we have the best state, and part of why we have the best state is because we promote parents' rights. We've been a shining city on a hill, an example for the rest of the country to look to when it comes to enshrining parental rights and in making sure parents are involved in the decisions when it comes to raising families. And here on this stage are many of the leaders and advocates that have helped make Florida the leader when it comes to parents' rights. I'm joined by Kim Herman. She's the executive director of the Southeastern Legal Foundation. This is a nonprofit that is actively litigating and helping states draft new bills and legislation, new laws to make sure that we are fighting against government overreach and that we are protecting families' rights. Tiffany Justice here, who most in this room know, co-founder Moms for Liberty, has been an instrumental national advocate ensuring that we are protecting parents' rights, not just in Florida, but now across the country. We've got Patty Sullivan, who for many years has been working as the state coordinator for Parental Rights Florida. She has put together a lot of the great ideas that our legislature and governor have implemented and made real law that are working every day to protect parents' rights. And then January Littlejohn, thank you for being here. January is the plaintiff in a very important legal case coming out of Leon County, where a school was secretly working without parental involvement to provide medical treatment and really try to indoctrinate some transitional, what they call gender-affirming care. This is not right. It violates Florida law. We're going to continue to fight it, and we're excited to help her as she takes that case up on appeal. So thank you all for being here. As I've said, freedom begins at home. It begins with the understanding that parents have the God-given rights to raise their kids the way they deem appropriate. And we believe that government should not be in the middle of those parental decisions. Over the past years, we've created great pieces of legislation. Those legislative acts include a private right of action where parents can bring lawsuits on their own, but at the end of the day, bringing a lawsuit, going into court, taking on all these steps, that's difficult, and not everybody can do it. God bless the Littlejohns for taking on this very virtuous fight, but the state needs to be here to help. So we're creating this new office. We're going to have a team of litigators focused on fighting the fights that parents bring to us. We still see far too many examples, especially in other states, but also in Florida, where parents' rights are being infringed. In California, they passed legislation where young kids can go through these health care treatments and they can be indoctrinated, and parents have no right whatsoever. They made it permanent in law that parents have no right to be in those discussions. Last year, a father in New York lost his 9-year-old son, lost custody, because he questioned the wisdom of a gender transition. In Ohio, we saw something similar. A judge removed a teenage girl, a minor, from her parents when the parents disagreed with what was being pushed upon the child when it came to, again, this so-called gender-affirming care. In Florida, these things are not legal. Our Parents' Bill of Rights protects them. However, you still have school districts, you still have government officials that want to collect data from kids, that want to subject them to, again, treatments without parental permission. They want to impose these surveys where they ask you a lot of questions. Parents aren't involved in those forms, and then they collect the data and it's not available to parents. That's not going to fly in Florida. We are going to fight that. Your parents need to be involved in everything that you've got going on. We love the parents in this state. So schools should educate, not indoctrinate, and we're not going to check parents' rights when the school bell rings. So we're creating this new office. I'll tell you, we've got a team of litigators, many of them moms. They've got their own kids. They are fired up and ready to get to work. We'll be launching a portal where any parent that believes that harmful content or infringements on their rights have occurred, they'll be able to reach out to our office, and we're going to get to work to make it right. So I appreciate the opportunity to be here and announce this at a classical school. I love classical schools, so we're happy to be here. And I'll let some of our guests come up. We'll start with Kim Herbin, who's fighting this fight across the country day in and day out. Thank you, Kim.
Well, thank you all for having us here today. It's so great to be in a school. I have a second and a fifth grader, and so I spent a lot of time in my kids' school, and they were uniforms that look just like the ones that I'm seeing today. But thank you, Attorney General, for opening up this Office of Parental Rights dedicated to protecting parents and kids in the public schools in the state of Florida. I'm the Executive Director at Southeastern Legal Foundation, and for nearly 50 years, we have been fighting back against government overreach and protecting parents, kids, and students when the government infringes their constitutional rights. As parents, for all of you here today, we know that we're going to have to protect our kids from things like scraped knees, from hurt feelings, sometimes even from broken hearts. But we never expected to have to protect our kids from their own schools. I know I certainly didn't. One of the issues that we at Southeastern Legal Foundation are seeing again and again across the entire country are these things called secret surveys. So what is a secret survey? Many times a kid, older than many of you here today, they might go into, say, their middle school homeroom, and they're handed a school device. And on it, they have to answer 5 questions each day. Just click them really quick. It seems benign. But these questions are on things that are very personal in nature. They might be things about their mental health. How are they feeling today? Have they ever had anxiety? Have they ever been nervous? What about their parents? Some of these questions are actually about their parents' mental health and about their family relationships. And these questions are being required to be asked without parental knowledge or parental consent. There are kids even as young as 4 years old in some of our blue states that have to answer these questions on a daily basis. So why are they secret? Well, they're secret because when you have parents who go to these schools and ask to see these surveys, right, their kids come home and say, Mom, I had to answer these questions today. So the parent calls up the school and says, can I see a copy of this survey? The schools are saying no. They are hiding behind what's called copyright laws and basically saying, hey, some other company created these surveys, so we can't give this to you. You can't see it or get a copy of it. Okay? Federal law requires that if your kids are being asked questions, personal in nature, questions about race and other key issues, that you have to give consent for that. But how can you give consent if you can't even see the questions? You can't, right? And so we have states like in Arkansas, where a bill was recently passed and signed by Governor Huckabee Sanders that actually ensures that parents can always get these records. It ensures that schools can no longer hide behind copyright laws. And when I met with Attorney General Uthmeier just a few weeks ago, he said, hey, thanks for bringing this to our attention, right? Florida already bans the use of so many of these surveys and requires that parents have consent. But that doesn't mean it still isn't happening in this state. And so with this Office of Parental Rights, it gives all parents another tool to fight against these secret surveys. It gives you another avenue to get access to them if they are happening in your schools and make sure that you have consent. Attorney General is setting the absolute highest gold standard here. And for that, I thank you. I hope that every other Attorney General in this country follows suit, because no parent should have to fight to know what's happening in their schools and see these surveys. Now, parents, I don't know about you, but I'm sick and tired of this battle being framed as a cultural battle, right? We are not domestic terrorists. We are not book banners. We are not racists. We are parents who love our children, and we will do absolutely everything to ensure that they have the best education and that what's happening in the schools is education. Florida has been a leader on so many things, and now we see them taking another step forward to be a leader in education and a leader in parental rights. Whether we're talking about race or sex or gender, we as parents have the fundamental right to raise our children. We get to decide if they're exposed to these topics. We get to decide when and how they are exposed to these. And when they're being kept secret from us, that's a problem. So I hope that all of you stay diligent and use this new tool that we have been provided in our toolbox here in Florida, and I hope that all other states follow suit. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we have Tiffany Justice, co-founder of Moms for Liberty.
Good morning, everyone. As James said, my name is Tiffany Justice. I'm a Florida mom who's been fighting for parents' rights across America. No one knows our kids better than we do as parents. Standing here with Attorney General James Uthmeier, I'm thrilled to share a historic moment for Florida families, the launch of this Florida's Office of Parental Rights. In 2021, Florida led with the passage of a Parents' Bill of Rights. And it ensured that parents have the fundamental right to direct the upbringing of their children, their education, their morality, their religion, their medical care. Yet across America, that role is still threatened. In Colorado, currently, there is a law that's being considered that would make it abuse to not affirm your child's want of changing their gender. In Maryland, the case Mahmoud v. Taylor is now before the Supreme Court. It shows schools forcing young kids to read books about gender transition and pride parades without letting parents opt out. It doesn't stop there. In Washington state, a new law allows children as young as 13 to access medical services, including gender-related care, without parental notification. Florida is fighting back. Building on the Parents' Bill of Rights, the Office of Parental Rights will investigate these violations, advocate for parents, and go to court to protect our role as moms and dads. This is a model of courage. Attorney General Pam Bondi was once the Attorney General here in Florida. I have no doubt that if Pam was here, she would be celebrating right along with us. And this is a call to action for every other governor and Attorney General across the United States of America. Do you stand with parents? If you stand with parents, Attorney Generals, open up an Office of Parental Rights. Help us to fight the government overreach that we are seeing across this country. Stand with moms and dads, fighting to protect their kids from policies that erode our authority. Florida is showing the way, as we have continued to show the way. Florida led the way out of COVID. We will lead our way and help show the country the future of parental rights. And with the Office of Parental Rights now in Florida, we're igniting for hope for families, freedom, and our future. Thank you, and God bless America's parents.
Thank you, Tiffany. And next we have Patty Sullivan, State Coordinator for Parental Rights Florida.
Thank you very much. I am so thrilled to be here, and it has been a long journey, and I'm just going to give a brief background, because the Parents' Bill of Rights began as a conversation around my dining room table with my husband in 2012. And 9 years later, after plowing hard ground and working with great legislators, the Parents' Bill of Rights passed in 2021. That was a great moment for our state here in Florida, and it also began a national conversation about parental rights. That parental rights are a fundamental right. They're a top-tier right. That parents have that right to determine what's in the best interest of their own children in regard to their well-being, their education, and their upbringing. That's every area. That's comprehensive. And many of the focus has been on education, but we're also thinking about upbringing and health care and well-being as well. And we continued after that to pass good legislation to continue to strengthen parental rights. And what part of that meant that government institutions and entities and other non-for-profit organizations and other businesses around our state were not to interfere with a parent's right. You would think that would be common sense, right? It was common sense when we had that conversation in 2012. But little did I know that it would take 9 years to get us to that place of passing that bill. But those 9 years were strategic and very important, because it was in those last 3 years that I began to wonder why these organizations were showing up in the same committee rooms that I was in to speak against parental rights. Here I was, just a mom, not a paid lobbyist, and never have been, and had to travel 5 hours just to speak on getting good legislation passed that was common sense. But there were these other organizations that were there as well that I could name very easily, but they were speaking against the Parents' Bill of Rights. So I'm scratching my head wondering, why are they here opposing parental rights? Which led me to research these organizations. And I began to find that they were bypassing the State Department of Education and working directly with the school districts to put these support plans in place to work with children without telling parents behind their backs. The first time I ever met my wonderful friend, January Littlejohn, that we spoke on the phone, she put a face to what I had found that was going on behind the scenes. And thank God we had a Department of Education that cut that bypass off and made an impact where they were no longer going to be able to influence that. And we were dealing with deep in the weeds of institutions. I remember talking to my friend Tiffany when she was on the school board and brought her a little booklet. And if you want to see the Thug Life meme that we made out of that video, I would encourage you to go to Parental Rights Florida Facebook page and see that, because she consumed that book in about 30 seconds. She grasped it, and look at what's happened today and how she's making an impact all across this nation. Because we were just moms wanting to make an impact and make a difference. But I remember saying to her and to others during COVID that the mask issue, do you see how hard they're fighting against parents just over a simple mask, of letting children come to school without a mask? The mask issue was just the Band-Aid of something much deeper that was going on behind the scenes. And the passing of the Parents' Bill of Rights not only was a great thing, but it also revealed the deeper issues that have been coming to the surface since that time of what was really going on behind the scenes. And we are not done yet. And a lot of the fighting that parents are doing are fighting against the government institutions that should be supporting parental rights. They think they know better than what we want for our children. But guess what? Now we have the Attorney General's Office of Florida having the backs of parents here in Florida. What an impact that's going to make for parents that have been trying to figure out, what do I do? There's something wrong here. I can't quite figure it out. They don't have the support that they need to address the issue, because the powers that be are very strong and powerful to keep us from dealing with these issues and taking back our parental rights, our fundamental parental rights. Do you know we shouldn't have to expand our parental rights? This is a restoration of what is already a God-given right. Amen. Okay? And I want to thank you, Attorney General, for rising up. And once again, Florida is making history, because we now have, thank God we had a governor, thank God we had legislators who got it and are still getting it. And now we have recourse that we can go to. We have a governor, we have an Attorney General's office that is opening a division specifically for parental rights. And parents, please take advantage of it. Please contact their office, because I've been hearing stories all over this state, even in the last few months, where parents have something going on and nobody's listening to them in regard to their rights over their children. Now we have somebody who has our backs, and we should thank God for it, and I do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Patty. It's frustrating that we do have to go so far as to enshrine in law a lot of these rights that are indeed God-given. But at the end of the day, government is weak. Government cannot be trusted, and we want to, protect parents everywhere we can. It's just over a year ago you had a Biden Department of Justice that was investigating parents. Instead of all the other criminal activity, serious felonies that were going on, they were treating parents at school board meetings as, domestic terrorists. That is not happening anymore. I promise you, Attorney General Bondi is not going to let anything like that happen with our federal law enforcement bodies. And here in Florida, we are going to make permanent this office to protect these rights for the long haul. To the fourth graders here, you got a great school. Jacksonville Classical is wonderful, great teachers, great administrators. And I understand, you guys probably don't fully appreciate the importance of the announcement here today, but you will grow up fast. You will have your own kids, your own families. It will happen much faster than you think, and I assure you, you will appreciate what's being done here today and the great work that these wonderful ladies have done in our state. It's almost summer break, right? How many? We got days left or weeks left? Man, okay. Well, in Tallahassee at the Capitol, we are eagerly awaiting summer too. So, thank you for being here. Really appreciate it, and thank you to the school for having us. Time for a few questions, if we have any. Sure. Well, we are the chief legal office of the state. So the AG's office represents the state. If there are violations of state laws, state rights, we have the ability to bring those cases. We've got basically a large law firm of attorneys that are ready, and we will certainly be working in close coordination with the Department of Education as complaints and issues are raised. But when it comes to going into court, putting our money where our mouth is, making sure that we're walking the walk and, setting examples. If you want to infringe upon the law, we are going to hold you accountable. Our office is the one to do it, so that's where this office will be for the long haul.
Everybody's trying to cut costs right now. Districts are always complaining about not having enough money. I mean, do you know how much this could potentially cost? I mean, how many cases do you anticipate?
There's no cost to protecting the rights of parents and families. And we certainly we will be working with nonprofits and outside entities. We've got a key representative here on the stage today. We're certainly not looking to run up costs, but when it comes to fighting the right fights, I'll spend every dollar we have.
You spoke about the Parental Bill of Rights, which passed in 2021. Does your office feel it's been successful so far? And could you just elaborate a little bit more of how you feel like the Office of Parental Rights will coincide or is it different? Just elaborate a little bit more on how this fits in with the parental.
Yeah, I think the legislation that's passed in Florida has been groundbreaking. I think it has absolutely changed things for the positive. We have every other state in the country literally doing a pilgrimage down to Florida trying to get briefed up and look at what we've done, thanks to the work of the people on this stage. And as a result, we don't see some of these horrific things that are happening in other states. That said, we're not perfect. We've got work to continue to do, and so you've got additional parental rights that are going through the legislative process right now, especially when it comes to these surveys that we believe are potentially harmful and should not be done behind the backs of parents. Hopefully we can get those bills across the line and turn them into law. And we, as has been said, we still hear these whack-a-mole items where there's either harmful content being brought into a library. It is not book banning. Every time they say book banning, go look at what's actually being removed from the libraries, and it is horrific. And I wouldn't want my teenager looking at it, much less a third grader. So we want to make sure not everybody understands how to go file a lawsuit or conduct discovery, go through the steps of the legal process. That's for me. That's for my team. And so we want to make sure parents are aware you don't have to go this alone. We will protect your rights at the state level.
That this bill has been signed into law. Is there anything you guys have learned through the process so far? Anything that you can see into effect, but now that you're like it's been 3 years, you guys know something?
The question is, since the bills have become law, have we seen evidence of harms or things that are improving? The answer is yes, absolutely. People have come to us. I think the whole parental rights movement has shown parents, hey, you're not alone out there dealing with these issues. Speak up, bring them to our attention. What you're seeing is not isolated. It's happening in other places. Our Bill of Rights gave people, courage to come speak up, seek help, and that's what we're doing today. Yeah.
Question. You filed a brief in support of the Trump administration's ability to remove FCC commissioners. I was curious why that's an important issue here in Florida that your office felt the need to get involved there.
Sure. So we've been filing briefs in many courts, including the Supreme Court, to defend President Trump's ability to remove executive branch officers. Over the years, the courts have put limitations on a president's ability to remove executive branch officers. I believe this is wrong and is something that needs to be revisited. When you read the Constitution, it doesn't say a little bit of the executive power shall be vested with the president or just some of the power. It says all of it. And when you have these executive branch officers that the head of the executive branch cannot move on from, it creates a big administrative state. And that's what we've seen in D.C. That's why you've got this swamp. That's what's costing the country, including Florida, tens of millions or more dollars. And at the end of the day, that's not who people elected to govern. So any good boss knows you've got to be able to move on from employees that do a bad job or that do not align with the mission, and we're happy to stand by the president in this regard. But you brought something to mind. I was in D.C. just a couple weeks ago, and I saw this big protest, all these people marching, and I was just curious what it was. So I went up and said, what's this about? And a woman said, well, we're federal employees. I said, oh, did you lose your job? No, we're being told we have to go back to work. I'm like, wait a minute. We're remote workers, and we shouldn't have to go back to work. And then I look at it, and here people have an option. They either can leave their employment and get like 6 months or more paid time, or just literally go to their office and do their job. And it's like, this is what we're protesting? Show up, do your job. The people of this country depend on it. I guarantee you those federal workers sitting at home were not giving bang for their buck. And I don't think we're going to miss them if they do move on. But that's the debate we're having. At the end of the day, a president can only be successful if it's his team. And if people don't like what's going on in the executive branch, they need to know who to hold accountable. And that is the executive. And that's why our founders believed in separation of powers and believed in a strong unitary executive. But thank you for the question. Sorry for the law school lecture.
Is there some area within parental rights that you would expect this office to focus on first?
I'll tell you, in the next couple of weeks, if we see one of these dangerous surveys that's asking people about gender-affirming care and parents are letting that happen or don't know about it, we're going to bring a lawsuit. We will enforce these laws. You got my word on that. All right, well, have a good summer. I hope you guys enjoy some time at the pool and the beach, and maybe I'll see you there. All right.